A few years ago, I was walking alone through a stretch of woods I'd been through dozens of times before. It wasn't a trail, not officially, just a narrow path people used when they wanted quiet. No signs, no markers, the kind of place you don't expect to find anything but trees and your own thoughts. It was late afternoon, the light already starting to thin, and I remember thinking I'd gone a little farther than usual. That's when I smelled it. At first, it didn't register as something bad, just sweet, thick, almost floral, but wrong, like rotting fruit mixed with sugar. It hit the back of my throat and lingered there. I stopped walking and actually checked my shoes, thinking I'd stepped in something. The smell didn't move. It was coming off the path. Curiosity got the better of me. I pushed through the undergrowth, brushing aside branches and dead leaves, following the smell until it became overpowering. That's when I saw him. He was lying on his back in a shallow dip in the ground, half hidden by brush, like the forest had been trying to cover him back up. He'd clearly been there a while. His skin was swollen and discolored, greens and blacks that didn't look real. Parts of him had collapsed in on themselves. Insects moved where they shouldn't have. The wildlife had already taken what it wanted. I froze. Not screamed, not ran. Just stood there, staring, my brain refusing to accept what my eyes were telling it. When I finally moved, it was mechanical. Phone out, hands shaking. I called the police and told them what I'd found, my voice sounding strangely calm, like it belonged to someone else. They asked me to stay with the body until officers arrived, the dispatcher said. I remember asking if that was really necessary. She told me it was important not to disturb the scene. I didn't argue, so I stayed. Time stretched in a way I still don't fully understand. The woods grew darker, the sounds changed, birds disappeared, insects got louder. The smell never faded. If anything, it felt heavier as night crept in, like it settled around me. I sat a few yards away, not looking directly at him anymore, but never turning my back either. Every sound made me flinch. Every shift of shadow felt deliberate. At some point, I became acutely aware of how alone I was. Just me and him. I don't know when the thoughts started to change. Maybe it was the dark, maybe it was shock, but I remember feeling like the space around us wasn't empty anymore, like the woods were attentive. When the police finally arrived, flashlights cutting through the trees, relief hit me so hard my legs almost gave out. They took statements, took photos, covered him. One officer told me quietly that it looked like a suicide. No signs of struggle, no one missing in the area, but they'd investigate. I went home and didn't sleep. For weeks after, I dreamed about him. At first, it was just flashes, the smell, the colors, the way the woods felt too still. Then the dreams changed. He started talking to me. Not clearly, not loudly, just enough. He was angry. Not screaming angry, cold, focused anger. He told me I shouldn't have found him, that I'd disturbed something that was supposed to stay hidden, that the woods had been enough. Sometimes he'd just stare at me in the dream, his face wrong, his mouth moving too slowly for the words coming out. Other times he'd tell me things about how tired he was, how peaceful it had been before I came. And sometimes he told me I should do what he did, that I'd understand then. I woke up drenched in sweat more times than I can count. The dreams faded eventually, or at least became less frequent, but they never fully stopped. Even now, years later, he still shows up once in a while. Always angry, always accusing. I've tried to explain it away. Trauma, guilt, my brain filling in gaps with horror, because that's what it does. I know all the logical explanations, but there's one detail I don't like to think about. During one of the last conversations I had with the police, an officer mentioned something casually, almost as an afterthought. He said that area of the woods had been searched weeks earlier for an unrelated reason, and there hadn't been a body there then, which means he arrived sometime after, and somehow chose a place no one would notice, until I did. Sometimes I wonder if he was angry because I found him too soon. Other times, I wonder if he was angry because he thought I was supposed to stay. And every time I walk near those woods now, I swear I can still smell something sweet, even when there's nothing there.
This happened last summer when I was staying at my parents' house during the holidays. It was one of those nights where everyone else was asleep and I'd lost track of time completely. Around 3 a.m., I was still awake in my old bedroom, sitting at my desk with my computer on low brightness, headphones half on, scrolling through nothing in particular. The house was quiet in that heavy late-night way. No TV, no movement, just the occasional creak of the floorboards settling. Then my phone rang. I glanced at the screen and felt a small jolt of confusion. It was my sister. That alone was strange. Her bedroom was just down the hallway from mine. If she needed something, she would have just walked in. We didn't call each other from opposite ends of the same house, especially not at 3 in the morning. I reached for my phone. The call ended before I could answer. At first, I assumed it was an accident. Maybe she rolled over in her sleep and hit the call button. It happens. Still, something about it bothered me. I checked the call log. Missed call, 3 seconds long. I stood up and stepped into the hallway. The house felt colder out there, darker. The only light came from the faint glow under my parents' bedroom door at the other end of the hall. My sister's door was closed, just like always. Everything looked normal. I took a few steps toward her room, about to knock, and she screamed. It wasn't a startled yelp or a half-asleep noise. It was full, panicked screaming, the kind that hits your chest before your brain catches up. I didn't think. I ran. I threw her door open hard enough that it smacked against the wall, already bracing myself to see someone inside. But the room was empty, completely empty. The light was off, the curtains were drawn, her bed was pushed up against the wall like always, no one hiding, no movement, no sound except my sister sobbing. She was sitting upright in bed, shaking so badly the mattress moved under her. Her eyes were wide and unfocused, like she was still seeing something I couldn't. I asked her what happened, my voice louder than I meant it to be. She couldn't speak at first, just cried and pointed toward the space in front of her bed. When she finally calmed down enough to talk, she told me she'd woken up suddenly. No noise, no dream she could remember, just awake. And inches from her face, she said, there was a shadow. Not a person exactly, not a shape she could describe, just a dark presence, close enough that she could feel it, like it had been watching her sleep and she'd surprised it with waking up. That was when she screamed. I checked the room again, closet, behind the door, under the bed. Nothing. No signs of anyone being there. No open windows. No disturbed furniture. I tried to calm her down, told her it was probably a night terror. Our brains do weird things when we wake up suddenly. She nodded, but I could tell she didn't believe that explanation. That's when I mentioned the call. I told her she'd called me right before I came in. She looked at me like I'd said something insane. She told me her phone wasn't in her room. I laughed at first. I thought she was just confused, still shaken. She insisted. We went downstairs together, turning on lights as we went. Her purse was on the kitchen counter, right where she'd left it earlier that evening. Her phone was inside, locked. No missed calls, no outgoing calls, nothing in her call log at all. I pulled out my phone. The missed call was still there. Same time, same duration, her name on the screen. But when she checked her phone again, there was still nothing. No record that she'd called me. We tried everything, restarted both phones, checked carrier logs later. Even my parents looked into it when we told them the next day. There was no explanation anyone could give that made sense. The part that still unsettles me isn't just the call, it's the timing. That call ended just seconds before she screamed, almost like whatever woke her up, whatever she saw, had tried to reach me first. Sometimes I wonder if she called me in her sleep and doesn't remember. That's the logical explanation, the one I repeat to myself when I think about it too much. But then I remember how close that shadow was to her face, and how her phone was downstairs, and how the call never showed up on her end. I still have the call log saved. I don't know why I've never deleted it. Maybe part of me is afraid that if I do, something else will try to fill that space again. And maybe next time, it won't hang up. This isn't my story. It happened to my sister. But I was there for enough of it that I can't explain it away anymore. When we were kids, my sister had an imaginary friend. That alone isn't strange. Lots of kids do. What made it different was how specific she was about her. She said her friend was an older woman, not a kid, not a cartoon character, an older lady. She called her EE. EE was nice, according to my sister. She talked to her, played with her, and sat with her while she colored. Sometimes my sister would laugh at things no one else could hear. Other times, she'd hold full conversations with EE like someone else was in the room. My parents weren't thrilled, but they weren't alarmed either. The stories were consistent. EE never scared her, never told her to do anything bad. She was just there. Then, around the time my sister turned 4, EE disappeared. One day, my parents asked about her and my sister shrugged and said EE had gone away. No drama, no sadness, just gone, like she'd finished what she came for. Life moved on. Years passed. By the time my sister was about 10, the imaginary friend was just a forgotten childhood phase, something we joked about occasionally. Then, one afternoon, my mom got a call. My grandpa was in a nursing home and his condition had taken a sudden turn. My mom and my dad left in a rush, barely explaining anything beyond, "We'll be back later." They left me and my sister alone in the house. We shared a bedroom at the time. I was on the other end of the house when it happened. I heard the radio. It clicked on by itself, not softly, loud, full volume. Then it suddenly dropped all the way down. Then it shut off. 3 seconds passed. It did it again. On, loud, down, off. 3 times in a row. At first, I was annoyed. I assumed my sister was messing with it. I walked toward our room, ready to yell at her to knock it off. But when I stepped inside, I stopped. She was sitting on her bed, perfectly still. Her face was pale, not scared pale, empty pale, like all the color had drained out of her at once. She wasn't touching the radio. I asked her what she was doing. She didn't answer. I walked over and grabbed the radio to unplug it. There was no plug. I checked again. No cord, no batteries, nothing. It was the only radio in the house, and it shouldn't have been able to turn on at all. That's when my sister finally looked at me and said, very calmly, it was EE. She told me she'd seen her standing near the doorway, not playing, not smiling, just standing there, watching. She said EE looked older than she remembered, tired, like something had changed. I didn't know what to do. I called my mom, already shaken, and told her everything at once. The radio, EE, no batteries. My mom started crying on the phone. She told me Grandpa had just passed away. I didn't tell my sister that part. At the time, we brushed it off as a coincidence. Stress, childhood memories resurfacing, bad timing layered on top of grief. A few days later, we went to the funeral. After the service, a relative we barely knew came up to us. She said she'd been cleaning out some old boxes and found something she thought my mom might want. It was a photograph, an old wedding photo, my grandparents on their wedding day. The moment my sister saw it, she froze. Then she smiled. "That's EE," she said. She pointed at my grandmother, the grandmother I never met, the grandmother who died when my mom was 11, the grandmother whose photos had been thrown away years earlier when my step-grandmother moved into the house. We didn't have pictures of her, not on the walls, not in albums, not anywhere my sister could have seen. But my sister recognized her instantly. Same hair, same face, same smile. My mom went white when she heard that. Later, she admitted something she'd never told us before. When she was a child, before her own mother died, she used to talk about an older woman who stayed with her at night when she couldn't sleep, a woman who sat nearby and made sure she was safe. She never called her EE, but she described her the same way. We still live in that house. Nothing dramatic happens there anymore. No radios turning on, no voices, no shadows. But sometimes my sister feels like someone is nearby when the house is quiet, watching, not threatening,
just present. What disturbs me isn't that EE appeared, it's that she left and then came back exactly when she was needed again, which makes me wonder, if EE was never imaginary at all, then what was she doing there in the first place? And why does she only seem to appear when someone in our family is about to die?